Hey guys, Marquis here. Last year saw a lot of great releases come out, all having a wide range of variety and appeal. And today, I wanna look back at those albums that I felt were that year's best. So without any further ado, here are the best albums of 2025.
Smoke. So be it.
Returning nearly 16 years after their last album, Till the Casket Drops, Clipse came back in full force with a triumphant return that not only contains the two's best rapping in a long time, it also contains great lyricism and deeply connected themes. The emotional opener, The Birds Don't Sing, tackles the two coming to terms with both of their respected parents' passings. Pusha regrets going to Turks and Caicos instead of attending his mother's last Thanksgiving, while Malice reflects on how his father was always there for him no matter what. There's then the anthemic Chains and Whips, which calls out systematic racism against the culture in which the two were raised in. Tyler has a really well written verse on POV where he says that he isn't really the confrontational kind and likes to leave that shit alone. And So Be It contains a scathing diss towards Travis Scott that exposes him being a fake friend, as well as Pusha saying that he can expose him at any given moment because he has dirt on him. Other standouts include the clever Mike Tyson metaphor on MTBTTF, Nas's verse on Let God Sort Em Out / Chandeliers, which he had a generational feature run, as well as the wordplay on Ace Trumpets. Overall, Let God Sort Em Out is a fantastic album front to back and is definitely one we needed in the state of hip hop as it currently is.
The heart is heavy, but it's never held alone. You keep it steady and you'll find your way home.
Have you ever wished that you could bring someone back from the afterlife? On this album, McKinley uses magic to bring them back. Now you may think it's selfish to want to bring back your friend, but he says it'll make him seem as considerate and that he truly cares. So he collects the resources he needs to do it without waking up an authorial figure that might catch them doing this. He then successfully brings him back and tells them that they have no time to waste. This album sounds great and McKinley gets surprisingly deep on here. There's also standout features from Blue, Ice Cold Bishop and Teller Banks as well.
Look, I came through with attitude, yeah, my type vicious. Today, new latitudes, I'm burning down bridges.
Ego Trip is probably one of the most well-produced and crafted albums I've heard, along with great features from L.A. Reezy and Young Senju as well. This album tackles themes of religion and addiction, with John being able to overcome it and doing everything in his power to be a better version of himself. In a way, he's evolving himself into being a better person, most of which was a similar journey I went through in the past year. But safe to say, despite it all, I'm still very grateful to be here and that the art of true hip-hop isn't dead. It's just that you have to search in order to find it. Definitely recommend checking this one out and giving it the attention it deserves. With each album he releases, Quadika is getting better and better at what he does. Going from being a mediocre YouTube rapper nobody really cared about to an artist that is capable of making such masterpieces as this really is one hell of an improvement over all that he worked on. With the last album being themed around a ghost who looked back at his family with regret, and Danny Brown playing the role of the carbon monoxide in the house that he was once in. This time he themed it around sailing the oceans on his boat, with Danny Brown playing a sea monster threatening to strike his boat down. It's a beautiful album where he details seasons passing as he turns the tides, as well as being too afraid to tell this girl that he had a failed relationship, with the fact that he still has feelings for her and how this entire journey was to find a sense of belonging in the world he's in. The song also represents not chasing your dreams if you don't want them to change, which could represent a sense of achievement and being content with what you accomplished. It's a self-realization for Quadeka as he finds out all these things he's been wanting to know for years now.
Take the food out our hands, how much more until we starve, depleted our community.
After 9 years of making music, Manchester-based rock band Maruja finally released their debut album. The tone of it is very heavy, but yet, it's incredibly made. In Look Down on Us, the band calls out the government and how they handled the Palestinian-Gaza conflict. They also call out how much power the wealthiest people have and how their greed consumed their identity. And as the tone of this song shifts, they look to find hope within the destruction of society and culture. On Sayos, the song is about freedom, something that the Palestinian people, unfortunately, don't get as they are stuck in the hellhole that the conflict caused. Free Palestine. People shouldn't have to continually die there and should get the freedom and shelter they need. An escape from everything going on. I think they need it at this point. And on Born to Die, it is direct commentary on how our society tells us what to do and what to believe, as well as not being the utmost about everything as they lie in your face. Overall, it's powerful commentary on how we demand change and that violence is not the answer. This might be the only time I was genuinely excited to get killed. This is the band's 4th studio album and, quite possibly, their magnum opus. Fun fact, this band is based in the state I'm from, New York. On the opening track Trinidad, everything seems normal at first as this person is trying to break free of a cycle of pain in order to enjoy themselves in the current moment. But in a twist of events, they find a bomb in their car, something that sounds like it would be right out of the plot from The Godfather. And JPEG Mafia actually has hidden vocals on this song, which is crazy because we got JPEG on an art rock song before GTA 6. Then on the title track, this person talks about how he's unprepared for death as it can strike him at any given moment. Unknowing that the addictions he has can lead to his downfall, he will enjoy his final moments doing what he loves. And on the closing track Long Island City Here I Come, he tries to make a connection with God but knows that he'll be ignored. And he is finally ready for death as he welcomes it in the last few minutes of the song, meaning he died. This album is an absolute thrill ride throughout, and the journey our protagonist takes is not only captivating to see, but the album instrumentally is also very fun and reflective of his adventure.
You want a piece of that American pie? Probably humble you. Want that nice crib in the hills?
God Does Like Ugly is a look at the harsh side of street life and how God makes exceptions for those he has faith in. I've already talked about this album at length in my review of it, so go check that out. To quickly summarize most of the songs though, You Ugly is a reflection of the dark times that JID has been through to more hopeful times where there's a light at the end of the tunnel, with them being contrasts between heaven and hell. Community is about JID growing up in Atlanta and how he was determined to make it out as well as barely being able to afford rent each month. VCRs tackles generational trauma and the call for vengeance and for keeps is about how he, at first, wasn't certain that he would make it but is very grateful that he did. Overall, while his previous album was better in my opinion, this album still does feel very personal to JID and I feel like he handled the subject material well.
It's a lot of cold nights, sucker pains in this bitch, water whipping on some cane in this bitch, Robin winning.
Alfredo 2 is not only a faithful follow-up to his 2020 album Alfredo, it may also be better than the first one, in terms of its opener track, which is a sequel to the song 1995. It talks about how false allegations against him almost drove him to self-deleting himself. On Ensalada, he paints the picture of trying to survive in harsh conditions while making It's a Lotta sound like ensalada, the Spanish word for salad. And Anderson has great vocals here while he talks about wanting to get away from this reality. And I Used to Love Her is a song where, at first, it seems like he's talking about this girl that hangs out with a bunch of guys and says that she can make some genuine money if she kept an image to her. But then he reveals that this girl was actually the rap game and him talking about her as if she was a real person. Very clever.
We can get into it, and we can get intimate. The shower when you singing it, better than me.
Don't let that distract you from the UK's output this year. Dave put out his 3rd studio album this year, which is also his most deeply personal one. And he recorded this album in Brad Pitt's studio. How cool is that? Anyways, on the intro track History, an angel tells him that he will go on to do great things. And where he's from, he's considered a threat, so he's glad to have made it out because not many do. He also says that what he did would only be impressive if he did it for more than a year, continuing his success for years to come. And despite his mother saying that there are more genuine ways to achieve this, he worked very hard to achieve this lifestyle. 175 Months reflects on the passing of his grandma and how he hasn't prayed since then. But despite that, he still wanted to seek forgiveness for all the wrong he may have done. He also reflects on the death of his friend Abdullah and how he missed out on the 10th anniversary of his passing. But despite that, he wishes he was still alive. Rain Dance is this Afro-fused track, which has a similar vibe to Location from his debut album, where he interpolates a few lyrics from different songs. He interpolates Drake's From Time, Lean-Witted Rock-Witted by the Franchise Boys and Jason Derulo's Swalla. And Fairchild is about women being able to take accountability against male manipulators. Dave has great insight on this album and isn't afraid to open up about himself.
I make money music. Broke nigga hate cause they really don't get it. If you get it, you get it. My credit.
This year was great from the underground. Lil Tony dropped his best album in the same year a lot of other underground rappers were dropping their best albums like Until Japan with Tromp El Oli and 1-1 and with Sin Ever After. But this album's different from those. On here, there are two versions of himself he tells the tale of. Tiki, the one who gets pretty violent and lives that street life, and Tony, the calm and reserved one who looks back on the philosophy of his life and makes it clear that he's grateful that he built a financial future for himself that sustained him and his son. This is especially clear on Get Out, where he was determined to grind to make it up out the hood. Look at Tony, man. What a great role model for this generation. Don't involve yourself in no bullshit. Do it the smart way.
Get you out your rabbit ass mind. I swear to God, I told you that's the last time.
Everyone loves an underdog story when it comes to rap. And for Marco Plus, that's no exception. He went from being this decently established rapper who was putting out quality works back then to being credited on one of the biggest albums of last year. And as this happened, his music started getting more attention and more eyes were on him than he may have initially anticipated. With his 7th studio album, he made it very clear to introduce himself and this underworld that is full of crime and violent activity. He wants to make it out of that underworld, but that'll take a lot of work to do. On this album, he touches upon themes of poverty on the song Parlay, where he didn't grow up having much, having means to survive and make money on the song GMFU, dealing with rejection on the song Out My Way, and remembering the good times him and this girl had on Falling, to name a few examples. Definitely give it a listen. It's equal parts introspective as it is nice sounding overall. And don't sleep on the deluxe edition either. Give the song with Boldy James a spin.
Narrator, sometimes I hate being the one that gives you education, sometimes I hate.
The narrator is a deep and introspective look into how things could have went in Milski's life if he handled them differently, mostly just reflecting on the past events in retrospect as he details them. On the intro track, Mirage Another, he looks back at a failed relationship where his other expected him to change given her ways, but he can't change. He often contemplated keeping it honest with her or trying to cover it up, given that neither were being very truthful, and he says that maybe the issues in this relationship would have been resolved if they were better addressed, maybe by conversation. Then on the song Mirage Ernest, now that she's with him, he feels regret over how things were treated, and now that what they have is over, he wants her back. He also states that her standards may have not been enough to keep him and that he didn't meet them in her eyes. Then on Black Swan, he thought things would be different with this love interest compared to the last, but she ended up lying in his face and betraying his trust. And on A Severe Sickness, as he details the course of events that would go on in the song, he tells you to consider the perspectives of two individuals. One has a wife, a kid and a stable job that supported his dreams and made him happy. The other one lives in regret over what he could have done with his life. He then asks the listener which individual best describes who they are, as they have to pick between someone who has a lot or someone who struggles to obtain those things. Me personally, I feel like the right answer here would be the person who has a lot, given that he has more to provide. Because with the person who can hardly obtain anything, it makes it harder for him to bring anything home. With the person who has a lot, they bring money home that can be used, but the other person would barely have any. He then draws the parallels between the two as he describes the concept of having to choose. Definitely check this out if you like Floetry. Moving past the very clear Tyler inspiration that was on his last album, Detta makes a much more experimental album that is a departure from this earlier sound. On the opening track, which is named after this album, the concept the album is built around is introduced. The flare gun is a device that is used to erase memories and make those forget completely. G says that he'll use the flare when he gets into another argument, a way for him to repress those experiences instead of learning to cope himself, leaving him in an infinite cycle where he forgets the past and only thinks about the present moment. Then on Blow, he convinces himself that destruction is the only way out and that this flare is the only thing that protects him from stress. On Test, He makes his ops forget as he leaves them in their final moments, doing what he thinks is best for him rather than giving in to other people's thoughts. Are you ready? He doesn't let setbacks define him as he keeps pushing forward. In Riezi's verse, he says that others are often jealous of his success and what he's achieved. He also wants to steer others clear of the goal he's trying to reach and that he isn't afraid to destroy the competition. And on the pain I was trying to forget, he says that he uses the flare to numb the pain he feels, which could be a metaphor for alcohol. The album then creates a musical loop within itself, similar to how Igor also created a musical loop within itself. The concept is pretty genius and I believe G is getting much better at his craft. Beloved is a sensual R&B album by the one and only Giveon that has incredible singing throughout. Mud is about the breakup him and Justine Skye had where he felt like she dragged his name through the mud and that he deserved better. 20s was about how he wasted most of his young adult years on this relationship that he thought would work out but didn't exactly go the way he wanted it to. Strangers is about him and this lover going back to not having known each other since she's in a relationship with someone else now. Diamonds for Your Pain is about how he thinks he can win this girl back over with luxuries he would buy for her. And on Don't Leave, Javian is desperate to stay together with this woman, saying that he doesn't want it to be over.
Play with guns, you the shit to save our life. No, I'm not no talk to Christ, but not at night.
Wasn't expecting him to be on this list, were you? As continual proof that some underground rappers dropped their best albums this year, Glock 40 Spaz did as well. Following his release from prison in early September of 2024, he wasted no time on his next full-length project, full of his best flows and best sounding production, which consists of rage and trap beats. He also isn't afraid to get more experimental on this album as well with his melodic delivery, especially on the song I Love Techno, where he raps on a more trance-sounding beat than we may have expected him to hop on. Overall, Glock 40 Spaz proved he's one of the best in the underground right now and his momentum is not slowing down anytime soon. On his first album in 7 years, Blood Orange's Essex Honey recalls childhood memories filled with joy, pain and music. On Thinking Clean, he recalls clearing his mind of negativity at an early age even though his future was far ahead of him. On The Field, the artists featured on this song, including Caroline Polachek and Daniel Caesar, recalls their memories of significant others they can't seem to let go of. On Mind Loaded, he and Lorde are overwhelmed by the past and how their past relationships may be the reason they can't think straight. On Countryside, he seemingly wants to escape his past by going to the countryside, a place that's away from it all. And on Scared of It, he's afraid of change and loss as he has deep anxiety. It's a very beautiful album where he's honest about himself and the issues he faces. Willoughby Tucker is about an ex-lover that Ethel had who left town and remembers the good times they had. Her current hometown is in Shady Grove, Alabama, most likely where this album takes place. Ethel's story starts on the song Janie when she turns 16 years old and her best friend gets a boyfriend. Janie is her only real friend and this marks the end of their friendship as she knows it. At this point, Janie should be done with Ethel since it's over now, but Ethel wants things to change. She wishes for a part of her life to be open so that she can be in it and that she wants to be her friend regardless of what happens. As Ethel and Janie grew up together, they were trying to survive against the forces trying to pull them down. And as they grew older, they wanted to do things that their lack of freedom forbade them from doing. Young people are also forced to mature due to childhood trauma, and given that they feel like every day is the same, they want change to occur. Ethel also frequently loses the sense of herself to her spiraling anxiety. It is because of this that she imagines her past lover, Willoughby, dying. While it is all in her head, this experience slows her perception of time and causes her to hyper-focus on the details. And she is a difficult person to love because they have to suffer through her in order to love her. As he goes and fights his battles on his own as he comes to terms with being a man, she'll retreat from the world as she thinks nobody would notice or care if she did. Even though it's a pretty long album, it's very personal to Ethel and you can tell she put a lot into the storytelling to engage you throughout. Serving as her first solo album in 4 years, Ego death at a bachelorette party is about the Paramore singer losing her true sense of self at the party she's at, followed by a loss of ambition and self-worth. The title track paints the picture of how she accidentally became a musician. She was destined for fame at this bar in Nashville, Tennessee, the same place where bars owned by Kid Rock, Morgan Wallen and Jason Aldean would be located. Many of the artists whose bars were located in this city are tied with racist allegations. Since you already know about Morgan's incident, let's talk about Kid Rock's incident instead. In 2019, he was the owner of a restaurant by the name of Kid Rock's Big Ass Honky Tonk Rock and Roll Steakhouse. He was being sued for racial discrimination against the workers, specifically an African American bartender who was disciplined more harshly than a white one because he believed there were more rules she needed to abide by. There was another incident involving him repeatedly using the N-word. He also went on a drunken rant telling Oprah Winfrey and Joy Behar to suck it sideways. He lost his restaurant because of this. Deserved. He's a piece of shit. But we'll save the Jason Aldean incident for another video. Anyways, it is believed that she will only make it big from here. She ended up getting bigger than she may have ever imagined herself being. This album is a self-realization of where she's at now and how this whole journey started. On Lux, Rosalia goes where none of her albums have gone before. In a cinematic, grandiose and larger-than-life direction complete with an altar girl aesthetic and beautiful singing. On Sex, Violence and Tires, she gives imagery as to the start of this all, being the aforementioned sex, violence and tires along with doves, coins shoved in people's throats and scales. Relic is about how she practically lost everything except for her heart and that she hopes her lover can keep it when she's gone. On Divinize, she is a vessel for the divine and says that you get to stay in the Garden of Eden if you don't give in to the forbidden fruit. This is a direct tie to the story of Adam and Eve from the Bible where they were punished for taking the fruit. On Porcelain, she says that the only way to numb her pain is through pleasure and she suggests giving her some. On My Christ Cries Diamond, she makes part with the imperfections they both have where their dark sides are both revealed. As for the Christ crying diamond part, it might have to do with luxurious pain. On At Dawn, she clearly doesn't want a significant other back and has every right to do what she has to do. On The Jugular, she admits that she would sin for the relationship she has and would do anything in her power to be with this person. And on Magnolias, after she dies, she commands those to throw magnolias at her coffin to commemorate her. On Everybody Scream, Florence gives us a self-deprecating look at fame and fortune. On the title track, she feels free to perform and be herself no matter how she may be perceived because she knows she's talented and can do a good job. She doesn't have to consider her vocal levels at all. It's whatever gets the job done. And after every era she does, she swears that she'll quit but something keeps pulling her back and makes her wanna release more. The demand perhaps is too strong and her audience depends on it. As she becomes more possessed, this is what the audience truly wants. They want her to get loud. And after all the stuff she did to recover from her surgery, she questions why she became this way. On Sympathy Magic, she discovered that healing and recovery occurred in witchcraft. In the first verse, she detailed what it was like going into her emergency surgery following her miscarriage and the scar she has because of it. As she was rushed in, it was a blurred mess trying to recall who she was. She then called for sympathy and grief amid it all, wishing her good health. In the second verse, her praying shows shame in what she has done and is seeking forgiveness. Thankfully, her surgery went well and she survived, feeling more alive than ever. And on You Can Have It All, she believes that she can be everything. And that's it for the best albums of the year. Let me know your thoughts on the list and what you agree with or disagree with. And with that, the 2025 season is officially over with. So with that being said, see you in the next video. Peace.